Hey guys, it's Cory from CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, and I just saw Ready or Not, written by Guy Busick, Ryan Murphy, and directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. So I caught this flick at the AMC Burbank 16. This was the ninth time that I've seen a movie there since I've started doing these reviews. So we are one away from the video featurette. This was in theater 2, and there were no frills at all in this. It was just a regular digital screening. The chairs did not recline, they just sort of like rocked back a little bit. Nothing fancy, but still a perfectly good projection of the movie. On to the plot. It's fairly simple. Grace is marrying into the Ladamas family, and they are rich from a board game empire that started with playing cards and blah blah blah. Now they own sports franchises and the whole thing. She's marrying into the family, and as part of a rite of initiation, she has to play a game at midnight after the wedding has concluded. And she picks hide and seek, which means that they have to play a game of hide and seek to the death, and she has to survive until morning, and chaos ensues from there. So this movie was just a ton of fun. I think that they figured out the right combination of things to really maximize the bang for their buck in this movie. I was looking it up. The budget on this one was like $6 million or something like that, which in movies these days is not a huge sum. That's a very low budget. But they just got great people to fill in all over the place. I thought that the script was really good. The story was really good. Samara Weaving is electric. She's great in this. It sort of feels like if she wasn't as good as she was, then this movie could be a lot worse. But because you get these great people in these key roles, and I mean, like, I'm not like a huge Adam Brody fan, but he did fine in there. Andie MacDowell, I was happy to see. On Helene, the Nicky Guadagni, like I never saw anything with her before, but she really brought it in like a great physical presence. Henry Czerny, like he was, I've seen him in like a ton of stuff. He's like that like type of actor who gets brought in on Law and Order episodes, but like he like is the focus of the whole. You know, it's like when you bring in like a better actor to do this one particular arc in like a Law and Order or CSI or something like that. Like he's a great actor for that. Like he always brings it. He always does better than the role necessarily requires based off of like how those things usually play out. Getting back to Samara Weaving though, because she is like the star of the show here. She does a phenomenal job, and I had never seen her before. At least like I couldn't recognize her from anything before, but she apparently was one of these stars who come from like these like Australian soap opera factories that just churn out like incredible stars like Hemsworth and Margot Robbie, and she has like a lot of like Margot Robbie in her. She's got a interesting combination of sort of like a Margot Robbie with a little bit of Emma Stone, and like it's kind of weird. She just sort of nails this place where she's kind of like a lot of people who already have a lot of importance in the industry. So I imagine she's going to pick up on things really quick. I would love to see her in something a little bit more serious, but that's for later. I mean, like this movie didn't need to be any different than it is. It's a lot of fun. It's very aware of itself. It plays to the audience a lot. You know, when it has to be expositional, it does it in an interesting way. There is certainly violence, but it's not gratuitous. It all feels right. The worst of it is at the end, but even that just feels sort of comical in a release kind of nature. So I mean, like I just think that overall, this flick was a lot of fun, and Samara Weaving in particular is like a star on the rise, someone to watch, and I'd be interested in seeing whatever she does next. Another thing I really enjoyed about this flick is that, as far as how it was shot, like the cinematography, it was well done, and they did a good job of like sort of maximizing the value of this mansion in which they're playing the game in. It always feels very epic. It always feels so like aristocrat and very like I don't know. It just looks like the most epic mansion you've ever seen in your life, and that it was built by the grandfather of the company, 150 years ago or something like that. It just feels the weight. Sometimes they go for it a little bit too much, and I don't know if that is to the benefit of the film. I feel like if you have a more aggressive mindset on how you're going to shoot something, and then it brings itself into like super close shots with a lot of movement, and then you're sort of worried about focus. I mean, like there's a couple times throughout the movie where you see some soft focus on some things, and it just feels like it wasn't the first AC's fault, because he's already doing like an incredibly difficult job. Just like, how are we going to get this intensely tight shot with movement and keep it in focus? It's just like a fool's errand. So I mean, like it feels like the fact that they really went for it on a lot of these shots is just sort of indicative of a general mindset that goes into the film that I think overall was great. Even though it had a couple moments where it just didn't quite nail it, it was like the intent really meant something, because it was enjoyable and beautiful at the same time. And now, all this being said, it's not a perfect film. I mean, like, it's pretty clear. I mean, it's a horror comedy movie that's it's aware of itself. It's a lot of fun. It's like, I would tell people to go see it. Like, I would say it's enjoyable enough to go out and spend a night at the movies to watch it. It's certainly enjoyable enough to watch at home if it comes on streaming at some point. Like that, it's really going to be popular there, I think, if it sort of gets out and it's on like a Netflix or something like that. The problem with a movie like this always is that it's just never deep enough to ever really be considered like something serious. And that's the fault at times with having a list and like a leaderboard like I do on this review, where you have to like give it a review based off of other movies, whether or not they be awards fair or Hobbs and Shaw. Like, you have to find a way to be able to rate it. And this movie sort of like, while it definitely maximizes its budget, it doesn't push it by $50 million. There's still things in here that like sort of make it look a little less refined, but not the type of thing that anybody who, your average Joe is never going to notice these things. And for them, the movie is fantastic, and it looks like it was done by, they probably imagine that the top people in Hollywood made a movie. It's just like, it's all perfectly good. It's just a limitation of being a horror comedy film, and the plot, though interesting, not developed enough to really make it something transcendent or different than what it was intended to be. Would you like to play a game called The Leaderboard? This is the 9th time I have seen a movie at the AMC Burbank 16. We are one away from a featurette. I hope you are excited. It will be coming out the next time I go see something there. On to the movie Leaderboard. I'm going to do a Fast and the Furious rating for this one as well, because it's a horror movie, and it's like a campy horror movie. Not like super campy, but it's like, enough so that this review, the regular Leaderboard review, isn't indicative of how much fun you'll have at this movie. It's purely judging it against things like Roma. Still, I think it did really well, so I don't want to undersell it that much, but For the regular leaderboard, I would give it a 7.2. But that's not where this movie is supposed to live. This movie is squarely in the Fast and the Furious. I'm too fast for y'all, man. Fast and the Furious leaderboard time. So this film it's not that it's like well done, it's very well executed. And from the cast, from the directing, which I thought was really good, the writing, which I thought was really good. Nobody other than Samara Weaving said to me, "This is the future," Tarantino or Sorkin, or like it didn't feel like we were seeing anything transcendent, but it's about how much is expected of you and how much you clear those expectations. That's a big thing about like really having great films. It's just like people walking into them and being happier when they walk out than they were when they walked in. And I think that's, for a movie like this, that's the ball game. That's it. So on the Fast and the Furious scale, I would give Ready or Not an 8.3. Like, a lot of fun. It's not, again, it's clearly a Fast and the Furious leaderboard type movie. The other one is kind of irrelevant, but it's out there for purposes of historical record, I guess. Anywho, that is it for me. If you want more, you can go to my website, CoryBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoryBakerFilm, or at LegendsV5 on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. There are a lot of great films coming out. Can't wait to see them, do reviews on them, tell you all about it. If you have anything in particular that you want me to see, tell me about it. Leave me a comment below. Please subscribe, both on the YouTube or on the podcast, wherever is most convenient for you to get these reviews. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you next time. Now, if you don't mind, I have to play a outrageously competitive Yahtzee game.